go ahead and get started. Since we're running a little bit behind, thank you all so much for coming. This is panel number 5, the Immersion Retrospective, the Path of an Immersion Student. I'm Karlo Silbiger, a graduate of the Spanish Immersion program here in Culver City, and a teacher at Animo Venice Charter High School in Venice, in addition to being the vice president of the Culver City School Board. And to my knowledge, the first Immersion graduate to be on the school board, so sort of an interesting series of involvements here. As I see it, there's a couple questions that I hope that we're going to try to answer and discuss this afternoon. The first one is why a parent would choose to put their son or daughter in a language immersion program. What would be the reasoning for that? The second thing is the short and long-term benefits of learning a second language. And of course learning core content taught in that second language. And then finally, how immersion students fare both in the rest of their education and then in the things that they choose to do afterwards, post-secondary, the work world, etc. And we're going to each take a few minutes to sort of give you some idea of our own experiences and what we've seen, and then open it up for questions and comments from the audience towards the end. So hold them to the end once everyone has a chance to speak. There's two things about immersion real quickly before I pass it on to the people sitting next to me that are amazing in my mind about immersion, sort of looking retrospectively at it here in Culver City. The first one is that as someone who has studied education reform, it's very unusual for anything in education to last 40 years. I mean, things are constantly in flux. We as a society seem not to be too happy with our education system, so we're always reforming it, right? And things constantly are changing and being updated. So for any program to last 40 years, especially one that was so, sort of, I would argue, revolutionary at the time of it being started, I think it's quite amazing. And the second thing is just how incredibly large popular it's gotten. When I was in immersion, it was 4 classes district-wide. It was about 30 students coming in each year to kindergarten. And if you look at the immersion program now here in Culver City, it takes up almost 50% of our incoming kindergartners for next year. And that's just an amazing thing, with a waiting list. So that many of our parents want their kids in immersion. I think that's pretty amazing. For me personally, I saw a number of benefits to immersion. I'll quickly mention 3 before I end my portion. The first one, of course, is that bilingualism naturally lends itself or leads to an appreciation of multiculturalism and diversity. And I think that's a huge benefit both for the students involved in the program and for the community as a whole. The teachers and the students that I had an opportunity to interact with, of course, the exchange program, and the arts and culture from the country, the countries that surround the target language that were brought into the classroom. A second benefit that I saw for myself and for my cohort was just the incredible valuing of education that came out of those of us in the program. The great majority of us went on to continue our education after high school, went on to professional degrees and careers, and a huge amount of teachers within or people who work within education of the people who I went to school with. And the last benefit of immersion that I saw was just the value to the Culver City community. I continue to see it. We're a very diverse community. I think this values our diversity. Obviously the economic value to the businesses here that pull from the graduates, and sort of the smaller world mentality of this, that if you know another language, you're more likely to be able to communicate with people around the world, and I think that does bring value to our community. So we'll use that as a starting off point as I pass the microphone down and give everyone an opportunity to comment as well. And we're going to start with, and I apologize if I butcher anyone's name, we're going to start with Andrea Bardeen-Shannon, who's a graduate of Immersion in the 4th graduating class.
Hi, I'm Andrea. I was in the 4th graduating class at La Bayona, and I kind of just followed along in my brother's footsteps. When he started in the 2nd class, it was not even a thought in my parents' mind that I would go into the immersion program because of just what it brought to, I don't know, actually, what it brought at that point, but my brother loved what he was doing, and my parents somehow saw the richness that it would bring to our lives, and I'm glad that they had that forethought because it was so new, and my mom was one of the founding parents and really spearheaded a lot with the immersion program. So when I graduated, I took some of the classes to continue Spanish in high school and middle school, but took a Spanish class in college because I just wanted to just kind of help out. I didn't use it as much as I would have liked. And one of the projects that we needed to do was where Spanish has taken me in my life, and it was a wonderful reflection on the benefits of immersion. And I think about what I've done, and just kind of in the synopsis is I did a lot of traveling on my own as an adventurer, but it really led me to places that spoke where I can use my language. I really sought out those spaces. I lived in Spain for a while and just traveled by myself, got an apartment, got a job. I lived in Oaxaca, Mexico for a year. I sought that out here through some jobs that I had, that I was able to get a job teaching swimming and also help rewriting their manuals. They loved having foreigners there, but I could speak their language. So my experience in Oaxaca was just a wonderful experience living abroad. And one of who became my best friend there, he said to me as I was leaving, you know, Andrea, when you came here, you didn't know how to speak Spanish. And again, I think that goes to register and dialect. It's like, well, I didn't know how to speak Oaxacan Spanish. I know how to speak Spanish, and that's how we could communicate. But I learned how to, you know, communicate here. And then when I came back, it wasn't even a thought that when I started teaching, that I would use my language in teaching. So I've been an elementary school teacher for 15 years. And fortunately with LAUSD, the bilingual program went out quite quickly. But my Spanish has been invaluable working with the parents. I don't have to have a translator in my classroom, which is wonderful. And it definitely brings a bigger bond when you're talking about the children, the teacher, and the parents, and the bond that you need and the work that it takes from all three of us to make it happen for the children. It brings them closer because you can speak their language. You're not going through a second person. And so that's where I'm at. And now my daughter, who's 7 years old, is at La Bayona. She's in first grade, so she started at La Bayona, which I had a really hard time with because I went to El Marino, and the sculpture that's in front is my mother's work, as well with my grandfather. And we'll be rededicating that on Sunday morning. However, my 6th year in elementary was at La Bayona. So I ended my immersion, at least elementary immersion, at La Bayona, where my daughter is starting. So it's kind of a neat paradox where she's starting where I ended, and it's been a wonderful experience. And thank you for having me.
I'm now going to introduce Elizabeth Arguelles Mejia, who, for those who don't know, her actually has a very interesting series of connections with Immersion, not only as a graduate of the program in the second graduating class, but also as a Spanish immersion teacher since 1993, and as a parent of two students in the Spanish immersion program currently.
Hello, everyone. As Karlo explained, back in 1972, when I was ready to start kindergarten, Spanish immersion had just started the year before. And it was my Caucasian, Philadelphia-born American mother who told my Cuban father, we're putting her in this program. I want her to speak Spanish with her family members. I want her to maintain the language. And my father, very commonly, as a Latin citizen, probably he had been a citizen maybe 20 years in this country, said, no, we're in America. She needs to learn English. Thank goodness my mother won that battle.